Hello and welcome to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather. It's Thursday, January 18th, 2024, and we just got out of some record-breaking cold temperatures. And Wyatt's going to talk about how cold it actually got, and we'll actually do a little retrospective looking at what happened with the different microclimates and how that affected recreation during this very cold period.
So we just got finished with about one of the coldest periods we've seen in the last couple decades. This is looking out at the salt water or kind of the brackish water, so mixture of salt and fresh water. Out near where I live in this bay, partly froze over. This was yesterday. There was some freezing over down near Everett and stuff like that. So pretty cold temperatures. We can look at the departures from normal for the past week, and we can see that the coldest temperatures were up north near Bellingham and up near the border, where places had some days that were 30 to 35 degrees below normal. So highs in Bellingham didn't even break out of the single digits. And lows were in that single digits as well. And so just a pretty remarkable period of cold. This is looking at Seattle. And we'll zoom in a little bit and just showing this green is kind of the average temperature, like where we would normally be. The reds are the record highs. And you can see over this past week, the temperatures really dropped below. And so the top of this bar represents the high and the bottom represents the low. And Seattle wasn't even exactly the coldest place. This is kind of cool to see. This is showing and let's wait until it gets back to the current date. But you can see the record lows that have been progressing as this cold front moved through and spread across the whole country. And so those X's that are popping up are all-time record lows. And then when they have a little white circle around the colored dot, that is either a daily record low or a monthly record low. So it is pretty impressive to see how cold this air was. And we can look at this, which shows some of the highs on Friday, which was the coldest day in many areas. So once again, Bellingham, 9 degrees. That was about the coldest day in 40 years at Bellingham. Many places in the North Cascades didn't get out of the single digits, and on the Northeastern Cascades didn't get out of the negative single digits or even the negative teens. Like this is Hart's Pass. So the high up there was negative 16 degrees. So pretty remarkable. And then this is the lows for Saturday morning. Some places were a little bit colder Saturday morning. Some places were a little bit warmer. But you can see that we had lots of negative 20s and even some negative 30s out on the east side, while down in the lowlands in Western Washington, we were mostly in the teens and a couple single digits. So very, very cold temperatures and kind of approaching, we didn't get super close, but the record low for Washington State is negative 48. And I think there were a couple negative 30s, like mid negative 30s, so about 10 to 15 degrees off the record low for the state. In terms of snow depth, we have received some snow over the past week. But we're still pretty far below normal, especially up in the North Cascades, which still needs to pick up quite a bit of snow. So kind of 60% up here and more towards the 70 and 80%. And the Olympics are particularly bad as well still. So, we got some snow and most terrain is now open at the ski areas, which is great. But we are still quite a bit below normal. And you can just see over the last 72 hours, which is when most of the snow has fallen in this past week, because we had a stretch of kind of sunny and clear and cold weather. There's a little bit of snow up near Bellingham and in the lowlands, and especially out in the mountains kind of places over the last day to 2 days, 12 to 18 to even 24 inches of snow. And you can just see this is some of the kind of CoCoRaHS measurements from this local area. So even some snow down in the lowlands, even if Seattle didn't pick up any snow.
So last weekend, before the weekend, Wyatt and I were talking about recreation, and we knew it would be largely sunny and there'd be some great snow around. But the trick was avoiding the wind for the skiing and avoiding the bitterly cold temperatures. And Wyatt and I decided to go north towards Mount Baker. This is in the Baker backcountry. And while Friday was dramatically colder up in the Baker backcountry, like we're talking, it didn't get above 0 degrees Fahrenheit, it actually was substantially warmer there during the weekend. And we'll talk about why. So let's look at here. This is the Baker ski area. And you can see Saturday started around 0, but rapidly warmed up to about 20 degrees with very calm, very light winds, generally below 10 miles per hour. Notice that it was actually warmer at the Baker ski area on Saturday and Sunday than it was in some lowland locations. I mean, Seattle barely got to 25. I think Bellingham was probably colder than the Baker ski area. So there was warmer air aloft and it was not that windy. Let's compare that to the Alpental ski area. On Saturday, Alpental at the base was about, didn't get even above zero. And the top was well below zero. And we saw sustained east winds of 30 miles per hour. So that would equate to a wind chill of something like negative 30 Fahrenheit. So we're looking at a wind chill at Baker of probably 10 degrees and at Alpental of negative 30, a 40-degree temperature difference. And I think that could really not just affect whether you even want to be out there having a good time, it also affects whether the wind is moving around snow, creating avalanche danger, and also just kind of ruining the ski conditions. So we, looked at different models, and really what the key factor was is that there was a huge pressure gradient from the Eastern Cascades to the Western Cascades. And that was due to very cold, dense, high pressure air in Eastern Washington and an approaching low from the Pacific that's low pressure. So the air wants to flow from high pressure to low pressure. It went ripping through the Columbia Gorge, Stevens, and Snoqualmie passes and created a lot of winds there. So basically, getting away from the passes during these easterly wind events can be key to finding more enjoyable conditions. Another thing that was notable was the brief ice climbing window in Western Washington. It's always challenging to know what's going to freeze, what's going to form during these brief cold snaps, because it's just a few days. And it's not like ice forms instantly. It typically takes a few days to form. And I think a lot of even experienced ice climbers was a little surprised at how much ice formed on certain climbs. Certain climbs that more commonly get climbed, say at Snoqualmie Pass and other stuff, still have basically no ice because they form slower over multiple melt freeze cycles. And it just got so cold suddenly that it cut off all the water. So there's certain climbs that I saw that just like couldn't form. It was too cold. But then higher volume climbs, like more traditional waterfalls, even low elevation ones on the west side, basically completely froze solid and grew to many feet thick of ice in just a few days. So this is a picture from Tuesday when I did some ice climbing up kind of around the North Bend area. And this is a south-facing ice climb, but it was just bitterly cold still. And we were shocked at how quickly the ice had formed. So let's look at another picture. This is Franklin Falls. It mostly froze over and there was great climbing. This freezes a little more frequently, being more shaded and higher up close to the pass, but it just shows that like those higher volume climbs that have a little more dependable of a water source, a little higher volume could form. And it was so cold that, rivers were freezing over. If we look at the next picture, this is the South Fork of the Snoqualmie near North Bend. It was almost completely frozen over. People were ice skating on different lakes. And so this was just such an extreme cold event that I think it really surprised a lot of us, that the recreational opportunities that did develop. And, they're probably pretty much gone already, but it was really fun while it lasted.
So now getting into the weather for this upcoming week. I'm not gonna lie, it's been quite difficult to generally forecast. I don't envy the National Weather Service forecasters over the past couple of weeks because there's been a lot of uncertainty. And we're still a little bit in that uncertain pattern, but I think as we move forward, we'll gain a little bit more certainty about what's coming. So right now, it's actually still snowing up kind of in the Bellingham area. That was predicted to be basically gone by even by most models that came out this morning. It's still snowing. So uncertainty. But as we move through this weekend, it looks like we're going to see some of this precipitation moving through. So this is looking at a wide angle. Here's kind of Washington. We'll see precipitation moving through Friday. Saturday looks like the driest day, but unfortunately, we are going to see snow levels rise up. So we can see that this is now moving into Sunday. We have some more precipitation moving through. And we'll zoom out on here. This is just the current kind of winter weather advisories that are up for the northern counties, and then the winter storm warnings that are up for the Cascades. This mostly goes through tomorrow morning when the precipitation is going to end, but the potential of maybe 6 to 12, maybe even 15 inches of snow in the next in the next day, basically. We can see that here with the precipitation. So this is moving through today, some showers, and then Friday actually might be kind of dry down to the south. And then Saturday is going to be dry most places. There's a chance of a shower, but also you might see some sun breaks. So Saturday is definitely going to be the day to get out, even if it's going to be a little bit warmer. And then on Sunday, especially later in the afternoon, we'll see more showers moving through. If we look at precipitation and especially snow, so this is 24-hour snow, what you can see is that pretty low snow levels right now. But as we go forward, the snow level is going to get up to about 5,000 or 6,000 feet over the weekend. And you can see that even though precipitation is falling, it's really only the highest peaks that are getting snow in this sort of situation. So like, for example, here, it's only Baker that's seeing snow. And similarly with on Sunday as this precipitation moves in. So honestly, it might not be the best weekend for skiing because of the pretty high snow levels, and you might get rained on depending on when you go out. This is just another example showing kind of the chance for some precipitation moving up. It's been fluctuating. The last model run showed it kind of dry on Sunday. Now it shows it kind of wet. So a little bit uncertain how much, whether there's going to be precipitation, but probably going to be rain/snow at the highest elevations on Sunday. And then here's looking at kind of the snow level forecast. We'll go to this one just because this graphically shows it better, but we're right around sea level right now. And this is looking for Thursday and then Friday and Saturday. And you can see that on Saturday, especially, it gets up pretty high. This is for kind of the Western Cascades, like Central Washington Cascades. Going to get up to like 6,000 feet maybe for Saturday. And then it will drop a little bit on Sunday, maybe to that 4,000 to 5,000 foot range, but still not going to be like super light, fluffy powder. Also, we're going to be dealing with winds again. So the winds are whipping right now through some of the gaps. We can zoom in here. This is from the National Weather Service showing the easterly winds that we saw last weekend. They're coming through again, possibly leading to some freezing rain as well. That might be falling kind of in the North Bend area and like I-90, Snoqualmie Pass, Stevens Pass. So be aware of that. You can see that also on the winds here. Whereas we move through Friday, they're still pretty strong. And even as we get into Saturday, you're still going to be seeing decently easterly winds. So kind of in that 10 to 20 to 30 mile an hour range. And on Sunday, they mostly fade, but then they kind of start ramping up again by the end of the day. So just be aware that like if you're going out at pretty high snow levels and some wind, especially through the gaps.
Thanks, Wyatt. Here's Wyatt's updated snow report. And notice that actually the snow depth at most of our places actually declined over the last week, despite receiving 2 to 3 feet, generally 2 feet of snow about. So if we look at Snoqualmie Pass, it went from 75 to 75 inches, despite getting 21 inches of snow over 7 days. Stevens Pass got 14 inches and declined from 81 to 68. So what that shows you is that the snow fell so cold and in such large volume in the few days preceding the last 7 days that it continued to settle over the last week. So it's not like we lost any snowpack. The snow's just consolidating. We're still adding to our snow water equivalent, but it's unusually cold and low density snow, which made for some great skiing in certain cases last weekend also. Here's the point forecast for Snoqualmie Pass this weekend. And the main thing you got to watch out for, especially around the passes and really anywhere on the west side, tomorrow's, we're not quite sure what the precipitation is going to be doing tonight into tomorrow. So if it ends up falling, all as snow, then maybe Saturday is a decent day to get out skiing before it really warms up. But we also might see kind of a freezing rain layer kind of cap the snowpack. And that would, not be good for skiing. It also could potentially create some crust faceting layers in the snowpack later on. So definitely pay attention to, the vertical gradient of temperature at Snoqualmie Pass and the type of precipitation that's falling. And then as we get on later into the weekend, it's probably going to be looking more like rain, especially at pass level. So here's the avalanche forecast for the different zones. Definitely pay attention. I've been seeing reports of a lot of really touchy conditions with this new snow following on lighter snow that's sometimes faceted in some places. Yeah, a lot of like little storm slabs like that. If you're looking to get out skiing this weekend, probably pay attention to the freezing levels, getting a little higher in elevation, and also know that colder snow does still or colder temperatures still exist on the east side. So the east side might hold out longer before switching to rain. Might be a good weekend to poke over there. Now, long term, it's looking, unfortunately, quite warm and wet, like classic El Nino conditions. 6 to 10 day is, probably going to be warm and wet. And there also is some signs of potential atmospheric rivers coming towards the end of next week, unfortunately. So we'd like to take a moment to thank all of our patrons that support us. You can, for $5 a month, these individuals get kind of more personalized and more detailed recreation recommendations. Each week on Thursday, same time we put out the video, basically, we send out an email with our more specific data about what we think would make sense this weekend, when to get out, what zones to check out. So if that kind of information interests you, we encourage you to go to cascadiamountainweather.com, which will take you to our Patreon page. You can also go to our show notes and link there and sign up there. So thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, share with your friends, and we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.